Yes, we can see.
Okay. Yeah. So today's topic will be about raising a bilingual children. So maybe, ladies, if you can just let me know what's your understanding about bilingualism. What do you think about it? Do you think it's like beneficial or not? If you can talk, maybe you can text me. I can see the chat as well. Mm. Is there any answer? Uh, learning than more than one language, yes, it's learning more than one language, definitely. So yeah, now today we will explain like a bit about bilingualism, the facts, the myth, everything, and maybe at the end of the, if we have time, like at the end of the presentation, we can, I can, like you can ask me any question and we can have a discussion about it. So, first thing to know. Is it beneficial to raise a child with multiple languages? Can I ask you, like, do you feel it is good to have a child with multiple language, or it could be confused? It will cause confusion to the children. Can I get your idea about it or background about raising a child with two languages or more even? And if so, what ages do you prefer? Like to start expose the child to another language. Mm, yes, children below the age of 5. Okay. Does anyone not agree with raising a child before the age 5 or after the age? Maybe they feel like it's better to wait after the age of 5. So, like before, I will proceed because nobody answered. So, like before, we used to have like that concept, like the child till the age of 5 can learn and acquire up to 5 languages. And later on, people started to say like, no, we should not let them learn more than one language because it will cause confusions and the child may have developed language delay and etc. But I'm here today just to explain that no, it's okay to have more than language and to raise a child speaking more than one language. But there are some, some theories about it. So maybe you can get a better understanding about it. So there are benefits of bilingualism. So one of the benefits, like the ability to communicate with extended family, definitely this is one of the benefit. So it will affect the children and the cognitive abilities as well, because research right now suggests that bilingual children often have enhanced cognitive abilities. So these are the research, what they are saying currently. And also the academic achievement. There are some research also they are agree that the children with that they are raised they are talking in more than one language could have better academic skills, especially in the problem solving, the linguistics, these kind of skills, and also the cultural understanding, especially nowadays, like with the a variety of people in UAE and being exposed to multicultural communities. So it's really helped the child that he's having more than one language. And what else? We have like being a language friendly learner, increased ability to focus, and neuroplasticity and delayed onset of Alzheimer's disease in comparison to monolinguals. This is also one of the recent research said that the delayed onset, like the child who is developing more than language, later on they will have like less percentage of acquired Alzheimer's disease. Are there any reason not to have a bilingual baby? Like maybe from you ladies, like do you think that there's any reason that could stop us from having or raise a child with multiple languages? I would like to answer the greatest argument against introducing multiple languages at young age seems to be that teaching a child more than one language will confuse them or cause delays, and that's wrong. As I explained initially, who is considered bilingual? This is the next question. Who is considered bilingual? So the bilingualism, as we said, the child who is dominant in one language and has another language as well. So they are acquiring more than one language. So how to raise a bilingual child? So I will go here, how to teach your child two languages. So I will go with theories or approaches that could help raising a child with more than one language. And definitely, if you have any question, you can ask me. There are four methods for raising bilingual kids that seem to be the most widespread. So we will focus on them and how they can support your child's bilingual development. So the first approach is one person, one language. It's called OPOL. It's the one person, one language. So one person, one language means like if they're the father and the mom at home. So for example, the father will speak one language, for example, English language throughout the day at home. And the mom, for example, she will speak her native language. For example, maybe it could be like Spanish language. So she will stuck to Spanish and the dad will stuck in English throughout the day. So this is what does it mean? One person, one language. So like, can I ask like if anybody has exposed to this environment, like that the father is talking full day in one language and the mother she will talk in another language. Have you seen that? Jude, yeah, you can write or speak, it's okay. Up to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi. Yeah, I'm Julia. To be honest, actually, what you just said, I am doing it at home. So my husband is English and I am French. So I speak French to my daughter.
Yeah.
Since she was born, now she's 10 years old. She replies to me. She understands me. She's replying to me in English, and she speaks back to daddy in English. So she is exposed to two languages.
Okay, so how does it work with her? Does it work perfectly? Do you face any problem, whatever?
No, to be honest, I didn't see any problems with her. She's more open-minded, and I find that she's very curious about different cultures as well and different languages.
That's good. So do you feel like she acquired both languages on same way, or do you feel like there is one prominent language than the other?
Oh, of course, there is one prominent language. When it comes, you mean vocabulary?
Yes.
Yes, I mean she's more fluent in English, speaking English than French, but now she starts to make an effort to reply to me, to answer me in French.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you, Judia, for your input.
You're welcome. Bye.
So this is what do we mean by one language, one person? So let's go to the next approach is minority language at home. So actually, I can hear myself like echoing. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, fine. Okay. So the minority language approach, okay, there is a question. I think Iram is saying my child has been exposed to three languages: English, Urdu, and Hindu. Hindi, I think. Hindi. So there is any problem with exposing to three languages? Do you face any problem, or it's working also with you? At all, it's working. That's good. She understands. Yeah, actually, yeah, someone's mic is on. I still can hear the echo. So if you please, ladies, can you make sure your mics are turned off? Okay, let me try. So let's still there. So the next approach is minority language at home. So while children need support in every language they speak, many parents find that a minority language needs extra support. When this is the case, many families adopt the minority language at home approach. So that means that for example, the child is exposed to 2 or 3 languages, whatever. So the parent will focus on the minor language that the child, the least exposed language, that to be focused at home. So this is what we mean by minority language at home. So for example, both parents speak French at home, whether it's a native language for both of them or not. And while living in Germany, so the child learns to speak German outside of the home. So the parent will focus more on French because it's the minor language than for example, let's say, I will explain it in a different way. For example, the parent, they are French or not French, but they speak French, but they are living in Germany. So mainly the child is exposed to German language. So this could be the majority. So the child is able to acquire it, but the French, it's only like he will expose or have the opportunity to communicate only through at home. So the parent will focus on the French rather than the German, because they know that the German, they will go outside the home. So the child is able to acquire it in a good way, and he will understand it in the school or in the nursery or in the park, playing with other kids. So this is the minority language. So the less exposed language to be focused at home. Do you have any question with that? With the minority language approach? Kimberly, yeah, please. And
Hello.
Judy. Hi, Kimberly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so sorry. I just have a quick question. So,
Yeah.
what about for some families that choose to speak, like mom speaks one language and dad speaks another language?
Yeah, the first approach, you mean like one language, one, yeah. Yeah, tell me.
Is that actually the best way to go about it, or do you still think that the minority, like it should just be the one language at home and then the other language, the minority language at home, and then the other one everywhere else?
I will tell you something. Like we have many approaches, so we have just I have explained only 2 approaches. So nothing is one and fixed for all. So it's you how to determine it, you know. I think for me, I will go for one language, one person. But it could be for other kids is not helping, you know. So I can't like really say which one is better, but one language, one person is good. But also you will see the other approaches, and you will get a clearer idea. So which one would be better?
Okay, sorry, just a follow-up question then.
Yeah.
So how do you know whether it's actually working then? Because obviously there are different approaches, but how do you know, how can you determine which approach is best for my child? Like if I'm speaking one language for my child and then my partner is speaking another language, like there's obviously pros and cons to everything, which I know what you're saying, but how do we determine whether it's actually working or if we need to switch the approach?
Actually, for myself, like from my experience, the better thing to determine if the child is able is the approach is working with him or not. Like if you feel like the child is a bit, we will not say confused, rather than he is like avoiding the language, the other language. He avoids to speak with it, you know? So this way we can say like the child is, he is trying whenever, for example, we are using one language, one person. So with, he preferred to speak with daddy, and with like once the mom start to speak with him, he will ignore or he will not reply, or he might reply with other language. That is like you will feel there is discomfort with the child, you know?
Right, but what about like the mix up of the grammar?
So the mix of the grammar. So the most important thing, like when you are using the one language, you should not, for example, if you are building up the sentence with or saying like a simple sentence for the child in one language, try to make it grammatically correct and don't mix it up with other languages. Don't put other words or other vocabularies from other words. So the way how he will really expose to the language in a proper way and being consistent, you know, consistent throughout the day. So it is, this is how it will show you, like you will make sure that the child is acquiring the language in an appropriate way. Is it clear?
Yes, thank you.
I think we have another question, I think, or shall I proceed? Okay, so we have time and place. So the time and place method is commonly used in bilingual schools. This could mean that during the morning, everyone speaks one language, and in the afternoons, everyone speaks another language. Alternatively, it could mean that Tuesdays and Thursdays are for the majority language, while Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are spent with the local minority language. So this is the time and place approach. So it could be also administered at home, like it could be in the morning with one language, in the evening in other language. I don't really, personally, I don't really like this at home. I prefer to go with one person, one language. But if it's gonna help in the school, and as you know that everybody will use the same language and he will expose to the both languages in appropriate amount, so that's fine. There is any question before going to the other approach? I think no. So mixed language policy, MLP, what does it mean? With the mixed language policy, parents use the language that is appropriate to the situation. For example, the majority language, like the majority language, as we said, it's the language that the child is exposed to it more than the other, the minority. For example, the majority language may be used to help with school projects, while the minority language may be used to discuss personal topics. This could be also established or administered at home or in the school. So this is the mixed language policy. Do you have any questions before going to the myth and facts and discuss more about it? Okay. So do children get confused when they hear two languages spoken around them? What do you think, ladies? Do you think that children could get confused when they hear two languages around them? I would like to hear your input, please. No, because it's the norm for them. I think when they are not used to it, they can be confused at first. I agree. And also I agree with Candice. Yeah. Actually, mainly they are not confused, you know. They are not confused. Children are incredibly sensitive to different ways people speak, even when they only hear one language. They learn very quickly about differences between the way men and women talk, the differences between polite and impolite ways of talking, and so on. So what I can say, like, yeah, the children, they will not really confuse between the two languages, you know, they can understand. I think when they are not, okay. There is another input from Letitia. I think when they are not used to it, they can be confused. And from my experience, it can be confusing if the same person will speak different languages. Yeah, Leila, that's true. Exactly. That's why we are like saying to be consistent with one language for one person, you know. It's really, it will make the confusion less. And there is one trick, like if the child is, you feel like it's not confused. Sometimes he doesn't understand the vocabulary of that language. That gives hints like he is confused, but he's not confused. He doesn't understand, and in case you feel like the child is not able to understand that certain vocabulary, you can translate it, you know, just translate it for him.
Yes,
So
I think this is what I meant when I said that at first, for example, let's say we have a child that starts nursery and they come from their home country where they just speak a certain language. At first, it will be difficult for them to kind of settle in with this new language, but as you said, it might not be confusion, it's more just they do not understand yet. And as they get more exposure, it does become easier for
especially,
them.
you know,
Yes.
that confusion, maybe you will feel it, yeah, as you mentioned, the new kids who are relocating in different culture and different language, and they're totally not exposed to that language. This is where in the beginning they need to settle. But as long as they are you know, they are linking the words with the objects around them, they will make the understanding. They are really smart. It takes time. Some of them they are really very slow, and some of them they are very fast, you know, in the way of learning the new languages. So as we said, it's not about confusion. They will not confuse, and they are really very flexible, especially if they are young. Yeah. Don't bilingual children ever mix their languages up? So this is another question. Like, do you feel like if you have seen children that they are using two languages or more, are they really confusing or mixing their verbal production and expressions? What do you think, ladies?
I want to say something.
Yeah, please.
Children sometimes, if their language is Arabic, for example, and they
Okay.
are speaking English and they come to a word that they don't know its meaning in English, they say it in Arabic.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes it happens.
Okay, that's good. But it's about this. So it's the languages that have been mixed. It's only to you know, to make you understand what they really want.
Yeah,
That's why they put the Arabic.
yeah,
So they don't know what is it in English.
yeah,
So yeah, so it's about also not being understanding the vocabularies, right?
yeah,
So that's fine. That's fine. We
yeah.
just need to translate immediate, you know?
But they know, for example, that with the
Yeah.
English teacher, they speak English, and with the Arabic teacher, they speak Arabic.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the children that they are mixing? For example, they will say in Arabic, for example, I want moz. So the one sentence itself has two languages, other than like they
Yeah,
are not able to recall it.
I've seen, as a teacher, I've seen that, for example, not the same sentence what you said, but sometimes, yeah, for children who are still beginners in English,
Yes.
who
Yes.
joined, who joined in the beginning of the year, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got it. So actually, like the adult bilingual children often use words from one language when speaking the other. This is called code switching. So the exactly what you have mentioned now, the example you gave me, it's called code switching. But this doesn't mean that they are really confused. Again, if we go to the base of it, they are not confused, but it's the code switching. They are not able to recall the word, for example, in Arabic or in English or vice versa. So if our children are exposed to two languages from birth, they will learn both just like that. What do you think about it? If our children are exposed to two languages from birth, they will learn both just like that. What do you think, ladies?
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes,
agree with it.
because one language will be dominant if they use it for most of the time. But if they are using it for equal time,
Okay.
can learn both.
Okay. Okay. So it is like no. Like also it depends from each child to other, but children can do this with no difficulty. It doesn't do them any harm. The hard part is making sure that they have enough natural exposure to both languages. You got it? Like, yeah, they can learn both languages, but they should that the amount or the time of exposure to the both languages, it varies and the result is varies because of that. So most of the time, one of the two languages you want them to learn will be more important somehow. And the trick is to provide enough opportunity to them to use the less important language, okay? In a way that is not forced or artificial. So this is what we can say, like, so both languages could be acquired with the same amount, but it should be the exposure to the both languages on the same amount. Usually at home, mainly there will be one dominant language than the other. So the child will be more comfortable to use the one that is, or the more important for the child at least, okay? The language that he will use it with the mom, with the dad, with his brother or siblings, okay? Is it clear? Okay. One language is more important. Do you think one language is more important?
I don't think one language is more important, but I think in life, one language is always used more than the others.
Not at all. Candice also, she's telling not at all. Yes, I agree. So one language is likely to seem more important to children when that language is needed more frequently than the other. For example, suppose the American woman and Turkish man in the bilingual home speak English with each other. The children will notice that English is used in cases where Turkish is not and think that English is more important. But if the same family moves to Turkey, the child will notice that Turkish is used in lots of cases where English is not, and may decide Turkish is more important. Some children are very sensitive to these differences and may be reluctant to use the less important language, especially if other children don't use it. Others don't seem to mind. So yeah. So it's based on the child. He's the one who will decide, like, it's this language is important or not important. And some kids are very sensitive to these changes as well. Would it be better to start teaching the second language after children have a good start on the first? What do you think? Maybe if we can get any input about it, do you think it's better to start to teach? It will be like a good or better to teach the second language after the first language is acquired? Yes, Layla is saying yes. Yeah, tell me, please.
It is important to start at early age because, you know, they say, the scientists say that at early age, the children can acquire languages better than the late age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should be, they should start teaching them at early age. And it's good for the child to acquire two languages.
Of course, yeah.
Because we need it. And
yeah.
he will need
we need
it.
it later on when they grow up, when they become adult. We need it, you know, when adulthood. Yeah, it's really a good thing, and it's an advantage, of course. So, like Layla also, she's saying yes. Mariam is saying yes. So, what's the the answer? No, definitely not. But especially in the bilingual home situation where the second language is likely to seem less important to the children anyway, introducing the second language later is just about guaranteed to make them think it's less important and not worth the effort. So as you said, it's important to start it early, as soon as possible, you know, at earlier stages, rather than to wait until like the child is reaching 10 years or 11. Definitely the learning skill is not that much. He will not feel that it's important, you know, like it's only the second language. I'm not using it. I don't need it. So why I have to acquire it? So there will be no attention to that second language. So my partner and I speak different languages. Should we only speak to our children in our own language if we want them to be bilingual? What do you think? So there is another question, like they were asking. So Candace also said yes.
They should speak the two languages if they want them to be bilingual.
What do you think? What do you have any other? Do you have any other input about it?
No, definitely, I agree. They should speak both.
So many experts, like both, also we have, yeah, Miriam also, she's agreed to both languages. So many experts recommend that one parent, one language method for a bilingual home. So the idea is that mommy always speaks her own language with the children and the daddy also speaks the other language. So this is good basis for a successful bilingual home. So, like to speak with both languages and exposed to both languages at home also, it's better. I agree with you, ladies. So as you mentioned before, one can speak in one and another parent in another. Exactly, it's the same. We will go back again to one person, one language inside home. So if the both parents wants to raise a child with bilingual, it's better to expose them to these two languages at home. What are some of the problems with one parent, one language? So now we have agreed that the one person, one language is a good approach to raise a child with more than 2 languages or 1 language. So what do you think, what could be the problems of this approach? Layla also has gave her input, like she said, it's really different from one child to another. Some children will be able to learn both together, other child will not be able to get both on the same time. Khadija, the child feels the importance of second language depending on the person or their need on it. Like in my classroom, children express their feeling in their mother language when they are excited. And then when they see me hearing, they quickly changes to the second language, English. Yeah, I agree. As I mentioned also before, like really, it's not typical for all the children. Each child is different from other. So let's go back to our questions. Like, do you think there is any problem or disadvantages of having this one parent, one language? If you can tell me, what do you think?
Maybe if they don't want the other one to understand what they are saying,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
use the language. If
exactly.
to
Yeah,
the
it could. Yeah, it could. Actually, I have seen like two twins. They used to live in Barcelona and they were using the language Catalonia. So whenever if they want no, but and they know all the family except the father and mother, they know how to speak Catalonia. But the majority, their native language is Arabic. So whenever they don't want anyone to understand what they are saying, they will shift to that Catalonian language. So this is, yeah, it happens. So Dana said, if a child has less time with one parent, the language acquisition rate is affected. Definitely the parent-child interaction is very important. Definitely, I agree with you. And especially if there is no time, less time. So definitely the language, the acquisition of the language will be affected. I'm totally agree with Dana. So let's go to the problems. So one problem can be balance. Children need to hear both languages often and in a variety of circumstances. Another problem is keeping the situation natural. So if children feel that they are being forced to do something weird or embarrassing, they will probably resist it. Explicit rules say speaking one language on some days and the other on others can be very hard to enforce and can help create a negative attitude. This is one of the problems. Exclusion. So if one of the parents doesn't speak the other language, for example, suppose the American woman doesn't speak Turkish, the children will know that every time they say something in Turkish to their father, the mother cannot be included in the conversation. So they make children reluctant to speak one of the parents. So one of the parents' languages when both parents are present. A bilingual home is more likely to succeed if both parents at least understand both languages. That way, nobody is ever excluded from a family conversation. So these are the suggested problems. So what about siblings? So this is in terms of parent-child interaction. Let's say child-sibling interaction. Do you think it's affected? Or do you think there is a pattern of acquiring the language or second language when there is a siblings?
There could be, because one sibling could be more fluent in a certain language, so they could also choose which language they're using with which sibling. If it's easier for them to maybe speak with, let's say one of the siblings speaks more fluently in English, the other one more fluently in Arabic, and the middle sibling is more fluent in Arabic, she might only gravitate towards the Arabic speaking sibling, something like that.
I will tell you. Actually, Candace, she needs to repeat the question. So I was talking about that. Should the parent talk like the previous question? If you have mentioned, if you have seen it, what are the problem of one parent, one language approach? So is this affected also by what about the siblings? If there are other siblings at home. So yeah. Actually, it could be also, it depends also. Is it the first child or the second child? You know, these kind of things, it could be affected. So the arrival of second child can upset the language balance in a bilingual home. So it's common for a second child to be less fully bilingual than the first. So I think here it's about like the first child speaks in the to the second in the more important language. So the first child is speaking to his younger brother and with his language or the more important language. So increasing the exposure to the second child gets to that language and decreasing the sense of need for the less important one. So definitely when there will be an interaction between the elder and the youngest brother, it will be through the more important language to the first boy or first girl. So for the second child, it would be the most important and he feel like no need or there's no important or we don't worth it to learn the second language. Also think about what you want to do about this in advance. Come up with a strategy that fits your own situation, but it's probably worthwhile to try unless the older child or children to promote the less important language in your home situation. So do you have a question about it? Like, did you got it or it's still confusing? I would like to know. Like the second, as I mentioned, the second child, it will be, he might not acquire the language, the two languages properly, and the more important language that he will use it with his brother, it will be the dominant language. So it might affect the learning of the second language. Okay, thank you, ladies. So my children used to speak our home language just fine, but now that they are going to school, they mix it up with English all the time. What can I do? So this is one of the questions. Language mixing is normal where everyone speaks both languages. So never panic when the child mix up the languages. As long as they are using the two languages, there will be some mixing up. It doesn't mean that the children will forget one language, and it doesn't mean that they can't tell the difference anymore between two languages. If you scold them for speaking English, it may create a negative attitude about the home language and actually make things worse. Instead, create natural situation where the children really need the home language, like calling on those monolingual grandparents again. So it's about the opportunities for expressing with the more comfortable language for the child. So you can understand this kind of language mixing if you keep in mind that simple exposure is an important ingredient of children's language development. When your children are small, they were probably more exposed to your home language, like say Korean than they were to English. Now that they are going to school, they are exposed only to English for hours a day, and they are learning all kinds of new words and new ways of using language. So it's only English, so it's normal to confuse or to mix up the languages. We just need to support them, provide natural environment. If you can just provide them like to be more comfortable to speak with their language. If you understand, of course, the second language, it's okay. So it's just be flexible, as we say it. So there is any questions I can, we have like almost like 10 minutes or less. If you have any question, please, you do ask.
I just want to ask,
Yeah.
in terms of special educational needs, where a child does have speech delay, there is always confusion with bilingualism and special educational needs. Can you maybe just give the educators a bit more clarity on what you might suggest parents to do in a case like this?
This question is a very good question because we got lots of confusion in this thing. Like the child is already diagnosed by a speech therapist or by anyone that he is delayed, either in the language or he is having development delay that affects his language. So definitely, if the child is speak, for example, he's exposed, for example, to English and Arabic, so he's already the, for example, the native or the first language or the more important language, which is Arabic, it's already delayed. So definitely he has language delay in that. So definitely he will have the language delay in acquisition of the second language. So there will be delay. So we will never have seen a child that he has language delay in English, but in Arabic he's fine. He will have both language delay, communication delay in both languages. So in this case, the therapist will determine, or also the teacher can give their input, like to focus on one language, acquire it in a, like we will tell the parent to stay focusing on one language at home, in the school also, and even with each other. It's better. So until he acquire it and become at least good or catch up with his age, so that time we can introduce the second language. But for the time being, for myself as a therapist, no, I prefer to stuck with one language if the child already diagnosed by language delay.
Yeah, so there is a difference between a language delay and a communication delay. And I think, yes.
Yeah, the communication, let's say the communication delay is when, yeah, 1 minute. The communication delay is when, like, the child is not able to use the language in social interaction or social contexts. So they are connected. So the child who is having language delay, receptive expressive language delay, most probably he will have problem with the social situations or social interaction. So definitely the language delay is totally different from the child who is, bilingual, but he's using one language more than the other one and he's mixing up the languages.
Anyone else? You need to ask questions.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Nilma, right?
Uh,
Yes.
Zainab, we are using Nilma phone. My question is like mostly I saw, like most of the kids, they are Arabs. The problem with the second language, like bilingual in classroom, what they are doing, the parents, they are using only some words of the English instead of using complete sentence structure. And when they are exposed to that language, they cannot get it properly. Like it was not clear. So it's better like parents, like if they're proficient, they have command on second language, then they can try with their kids. Like if you are not proficient in using two languages, it's better to stay on one language instead of using two, like the parents, they want them to learn English but they are not proficient enough.
Yeah,
So
we are
there
aware.
must be,
Yeah.
training to the parents as well. Like we have to teach them, if you are not proficient in second language, so stay on one language, so you're not
I will
going to
tell you
confuse
something.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, you raised up a good point actually. So the examples that we were discussing or the approaches we were anticipating or predicting that the both parents are expert in their language on these languages that they are speaking. But in case that the parent they are not really, for example, I will give you an example. Tell me if it's clear or not. So for example, if the parent they are not really speaking very well in English at home, so and he is only exposed to English in the school or the nursery. So at that time, we can tell the parent, because you know they are not using the English in a proper manner, so the child may acquire the grammatical and the syntax part of the language in a wrong way. So that time, no, the parent should, okay, just continue with your native language and let the child acquire the language in a proper way in the school. And this is what I meant by, like, the parents should not mix also. They have, other than mixing both languages in one sentence as the example I gave you, but also they have to use the proper words and vocabularies. You got it? Is it this what you were asking about, Nelma?
Yeah, like I saw most of my kids, you know, they are not using proper language at home, but they want them to learn English. But when they came here, they get so confused, and it was like, as an educator, it was a bit difficult for us to give them a, you know, to get them on a track. And like children, when all the peers, they are going to get, you know, a kind of wrong sentence structured from the other. So like we can suggest to parents, like if you're going to have PTM or something like that, so it's better to stay, like you're right, it's better to stay on your native language instead of mixing with that like
Yeah,
you're not proficient. So yes.
yeah, and let the child learn it and acquire it in a
Yeah.
proper school.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, ladies?
Yes, we have a question. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Nadwa, right?
Yes, so here is Miss Allah. She's our languages teacher, so she has a question.
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the insightful session. I'm just asking regarding language because I'm teaching two languages, one week
Yeah.
French, one week Arabic. So I just wanted to know when I'm in the class, usually I speak most of the things in the language that we are using that week. But it happens sometimes, you know, some of the kids, they don't understand, for example, simple instruction unless there is a child who speak that language where they can understand. Like, for example, let's stand up or let's go to the chairs.
Yes, the
So
simple instructions.
I repeat it like 3-4 times. Then at the end, I stand up myself to show them, but they can still be sitting, you know. So at the end, I feel like, okay, I have to say it in English for them to understand. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to know your recommendation for me doing two different languages for the same.
So I will tell you
children.
something. Actually, if you, I have mentioned that during the presentation, but when you feel like the child is really not understanding the language or the instruction, you can say it with the French language and then translate it in English fully.
Okay.
Got it?
Fully.
So don't mix it together. You say the sentence in French. If he's not responding, or you know that he's not responding, try to repeat the same instruction in English or the language that he understands.
Okay.
So if he doesn't understand, so we need to show him what we are telling. So we can translate it and then he will follow it. So at least whenever next time when you say the same instruction, at least maybe he will link that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what she means.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Usually I don't mix, but yes, I'm trying to say it in English.
Actually, no, you are not mixing in this way. In this way, the child is totally doesn't understand it, you know? So we need to provide the support at least on some. We have to, maybe the child is not exposed, so we need him just to understand a little bit, you know?
Yes. Okay, no problem. The other thing is, how about the stories? When I read a story for them, do I have to explain to them, like after I read a page, do I have to say it in English in order for them to understand, or I don't have to?
Let's say about the story, just 1 minute, please. For the stories. So whenever you want to read the story for him, So try to focus on the target words. Try to use the target words. Don't provide him lots of words because he's not understanding yet. So try to have the stories that has more picture and target words, and see how is it going. If you feel still, I know it's difficult. You have lots of kids and you will not be able to translate every word in the story. So just let him expose to words, to these words, even throughout the session, you know, let him just link it. Maybe if you say, there is one research says like the child is, if is exposed to one word or one vocabulary, many times throughout the day, he will definitely understand it. He will know it. He will link it with what he saw it.
Okay.
Okay. So if it's about reading story in a group and everybody should develop the active listening skills. So just read it as it is. If you are talking to him only with him alone and you are reading the story to him alone, you can translate it that time. But even you cannot translate it also because there are pictures. So definitely he will link between the word you said and the picture. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we are done.
Yes, thank you so much for the session.
Thank you so much for coming.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and regarding the question, just I don't want to forget it because the Nikki, I think Jobert, she asked about resources or links to conduct research on this topic. So I will share with you, Letilia, the links whenever I'm free, and you can share it with the teacher. So for extra resources or research on this topic.
Yes, please. That will be very helpful.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.